Good afternoon and welcome to the 15th episode of the PRA Thought Leadership Series. I'm Raphael, founder and CEO of Retailgate Technologies, proud member of the PRA, and Chief Technology Officer of the United Neon Media Group, and I will be your host this afternoon. Now, Retailgate is a smart retailing enabler equipping retailers with custom artificial intelligence and agile innovation solutions to help you amplify your impact as we are one with the United Neon Media Group in making lives meaningful by pioneering possibilities. Now, in recent years, we have seen a tsunami of content about the need to move from multi-channel to omni-channel strategies. Now, conventional wisdom is all about interactions with customers regarding the channels they use. The critical problem here is that our customers don't view our brands through a multi-channel or omni-channel lens. Now, this talk will explore the rise of the channel-less customer and examine what challenges and opportunities lay ahead before us. But before we dive into our conversation with our guests, let me first call on PRA Chairman and Picture City President, Attorney Paul Santos, to officially welcome everyone to the program. Hi, Attorney Paul.
Good afternoon, Ralph. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the 15th Thought Leadership Series of Philippine Retailers Association. Again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We are pleased to present to you once again another informative and relevant TLS episode today that will help you in your business. In recent years, we have seen a tsunami of content about the need to move from multi-channel to omni-channel strategies. Conventional wisdom is all about interactions with customers regarding the channels they use. Today's episode will help us learn more about the rise of the channel-less customer and examine what challenges and opportunities lie ahead for us. Hear more from experienced makers and industry leaders from Adobe and DotDigital to deliver strong performance growth in the new digital-first post-COVID consumer. Once again, thank you to our co-presenter Retail Associates, program partner Retailgate Technologies, and media partner Megamobile for making today's episode possible. And to everyone for joining us today. May we all have an insightful afternoon session. Keep safe, everyone, and stay healthy. Back to you, Ralph.
Thanks, Attorney Paul. And yes, there's so much to learn from this afternoon session as we really dive into that concept that whether what channel we're on, we're carrying the same brand, so we have to really go channel-less. So thank you so much for welcoming us to this afternoon session, Attorney Paul. Now, the 15th PRA Thought Leadership Series is co-presented by Retail Associates, the leading business advisory and consulting firm in the Philippines. Program partner Retailgate Technologies, a smart retailing enabler, because we exist to empower the innovators, mavericks, and game changers and companies who dare to challenge the status quo in their company and disrupt their industry. And media partner Megamobile, an official partner of Viber, over 45 million users, and View with over 30 million users, and a reseller of Spotify, three of the biggest entertainment and messaging communities in the Philippines. Megamobile is also part of the Enquirer group of companies. Its official Enquirer mobile app allows select brands to engage with over 730,000 Enquirer readers. Now, if you have friends or colleagues who need to hear this episode today, you may still invite them to register and catch up with our conversation this afternoon, as this episode will be exclusive on Zoom only. Now, moderating the virtual panel conversation this afternoon is the President and CEO of Retail Associates, a Philippine-based consulting firm which he founded in 2006. Retail Associates is focused on helping retailers automate and streamline processes through innovative business solutions built on leading technology platforms. Retail Associates is a key partner of Microsoft and Adobe in the Philippines with customers across Asia Pacific. He is Swedish and made the Philippines his home country 22 years ago. He is a founder and president of the Nordic Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines. He is passionate about new technology, business development, and delivering great service and scuba diving. Please welcome Bo Lundqvist. Hi, Bo.
There's no video here.
You there, Bo?
I am here, but I'm not sure if the video works. Does it?
We're not seeing you yet, Bo.
You're not seeing me. Well, then I suppose I need to start my video.
Yes,
Yep.
all right.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Raphael, for that introduction. I appreciate that. And thank you very much, Attorney Paul, for the kind words to start the session with. And thank you very much for everyone out there that is joining our thought leadership today. I know you have probably busy schedules and you're taking some time off for us. I'm happy with that. Now, everyone on this call is, of course, heavily invested in the retail industry in the Philippines. And while we're all happy to see now that the economy is finally opening up again, the malls are getting busier, etc., I think we're also looking at how do we now address the new normal, because I think we all know here today that the new technology that is rapidly being made available to every Filipino, combined with the new shopping habits that I think has now come to life during COVID, we know that this retail landscape will actually change. It will change forever. And therefore, every retailer needs to now sit down and craft a strategy that is just right for their post-COVID customers. And that needs to be done now, and that is exactly why we're here today. My name is, as Raphael said, Bo Lundqvist, and I would like to applaud you for pronouncing my name very well. I know it is difficult, Raphael. I do represent Retail Associate. I am the president and also the founder. We are, as stated, a Filipino consulting firm based in Ortigas, and we are focused on providing retailers and food service businesses with end-to-end technology solutions. And yes, we are also a long time and proud member of the PRA, and thank you very much for all the support that PRA has lended my business over these years. We're probably more known for our close cooperation with Microsoft, as indicated, and for the fact that we introduced the LS Retail solution to the Philippines, which is now one of the sort of standard premier retail management solutions here. Our mission as a business is to bring world-class technology to Filipino retailers. And with that same mission, we partnered with Adobe a few years back to, again, bring world-class technology to the Philippines. In this case, Magento, which is today known as Adobe Commerce Cloud. Adobe Commerce Cloud brings a true enterprise e-commerce solution to retailers, which is really one of the strategies that needs to be put in place to meet now the challenges in the post-COVID normal. We believe at Retail Associates that a solid e-commerce strategy is the best way to break free from marketplaces, from templates that we may have put in place today, and instead focus on really crafting that identity online to deliver amazing and unique customer experience and to make sure that your online store is your flagship store. In today's seminar, we have invited two speakers who will share their view on how retailers should best prepare for what we now will be calling the post-COVID customer. First of all, I have the great honor to welcome Nicholas Kontopoulos. He also has a very complicated family name. Nicholas is from Adobe. He is, in fact, the regional head of growth marketing at Adobe Asia Pacific. Prior to Adobe, Nicholas held a global position with SAP. Nicholas is an international speaker, and dare I say, a speaker that is difficult to book, and that's why we're very happy to have him with us today. And his favorite topic and his passion is around customer experience. And you will hear that passion in what Nicholas is about to deliver to you. He is going to talk to you about the Channelless Customer, and I am very sure that you will learn a lot and get very inspired for what's coming next in Nicholas' speech. Welcome to you, Nicholas, to the Philippines, and please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you for that warm welcome, and I'm definitely excited to be here, Bo, and partnering up with you and your fabulous company, as well as the rest of the crew here that's hosting today's event. It's a really exciting schedule we've got for you today, and I'm definitely going to be talking to you about a topic I'm very passionate about. So I'm just going to share my desktop. Just let me know once you can see my slides. Bo, is that all coming up nicely as planned? Hopefully you guys can see. If you can just confirm that the slides are there. Are we good?
Yes, we're good.
Excellent. Awesome. Excellent. Well, as introduced, my name is Nicholas Kontopoulos. I've got the great privilege of heading up the Adobe DX growth marketing strategy. And again, we're going to be talking about a topic I am very passionate about. I've got a fast-paced presentation today. We're going to cover a lot of great content. And I thought I'd start with, a little bit on who I am and what makes me tick and what I'm passionate about. Well, first and foremost, I'm passionate about my family. These are my two lovely boys. I've got a wonderful wife who, and we all live here in Singapore. So I'm first and foremost, very passionate about my family. I'm also Australian by birth, where I was born in Sydney, and I'm passionate about sports. Although when we're losing, I revert to my Greek heritage, which is the Kontopoulos surname there. But yeah, definitely passionate about sports. But I'm also very passionate about people, and people fascinate me. I've had the great privilege of working across multiple markets over the years, whether it's from Australia to London and to China and to now Singapore. And I'm going to share insights from my journeys, both as a customer, both as a former, client side, user of technology, as well as someone who's worked with and partnered with some great companies over my career in terms of driving transformation. As I said, my career has charted, been cut across a lot of different geographies. So again, I'm going to look to bring some of those learnings together today in today's session. But I'm very passionate about customer experience. As a professional front, this is a topic I've been living and breathing for nearly 2 decades now. I'm really seriously passionate about my customers. And again, what I want to share today are insights, like I said, from my own journey that I want to share with you that hopefully sees you leave and, obviously take these ideas and apply into your own businesses. So I will be throwing a lot of, hopefully great ideas your way. And if one or two of those stick with you, that'll be a success for me today. So in terms of, I'm a big history buff. Yeah. So I love history. And I think before you look forward, it's always good to look where we've come from. So if we think about the journey businesses have been on and consumers been on, we've seen a lot of transformation over, what has become actually quite a short period of time if we think about human history. But if we go right back to the Industrial Revolution, we were very much single channel sort of orientated in how we connected with one another and businesses. And as we move forward, we've seen the channels evolve. We've gone through this digital revolution, information age, and now what I call the age of customer. And through that, we've moved from single channel, multi-channel to omni-channel, and to now this period that I'm referring to as Channelless Customer. And it's a really key concept I'd like to introduce you today, because I'm not against the concept of omnichannel. It's a very good concept, but it's become very technology orientated. And I think we need to think about the technology, people, and process. And that's where, for me, you're thinking about the customer as being channelless is quite an important message, because at the end of the day, what we have seen in this time is a lot of the power shift away from companies and obviously into the hands of customers. And it's not about wrestling control back from them. Actually, what you want to find is a nice, happy equilibrium between the two, so that both parties feel like they're winning in any engagement. And that's really critical to a successful channelless go-to-market strategy. So in terms of everyone turning up here today, I think we all agree customer experience matters, and we know this. That's why you're here today. And if we think about the importance of what really influences customer experience is emotions. We always think about the rational side of our brain, that we're very rational human beings, but the reality is 80 to 90% of our decision-making is driven emotionally, whether we're buying consumer goods or B2B goods, it doesn't matter. We're very emotional creatures. And for me, one concept I really want to also share with you today is the importance of the promises we make. Every day we're making promises to our customers, to our employees, to our suppliers. And the more promises we make and the more we keep, the more trust we build. And trust is the bedrock of customer experience. Really, if we think back, customer experience was a lot easier to control, in years past. There was a lot fewer channels, as I touched on earlier. But as we've seen, technologies evolve. They've opened up new ways of engaging. We've moved away from have that simpler sort of way of engaging, where we dealt with brands that we're very familiar with, that were very tangible experiences, to really seeing technology playing a massive role in transforming everything we know. For those that are older on this call today, like the gray hairs like me, we've seen this transformation occur in our lifetimes at an accelerated, in a really fast-paced way. I mean, this is a good visualization of what my desktop looked like back in 1995 and what it currently looks like. I've seen everything basically shrink down to 2 devices. When I hopefully can get back on planes and travel again, these are the only 2 devices I need to transact and do my business with. And we've seen the form factor of technology change dramatically in this time. It goes from big to small to big to small again. And again, each of these technology evolutions create challenges for us as marketers, as businesses, because we're constantly having to innovate the way we engage with our customers. We think back to when these little avatars were popping up on the virtual world of Pokemon Go and we're chasing them all around cities. That changed behavior. Now we're seeing TikTok really changing consumer behavior, influencing consumer behavior. And this is happening on a scale we could not have imagined. If we just think in the last 2 years alone, due to the pandemic, we're seeing significant changes. This research is coming from our digital trends survey, 14,000 marketers globally, B2C, B2B, consumer goods, manufacturing, all reporting unusual growth in digital customer engagement. All of this is having an impact. And I really love this idea of digital Darwinism, when technology and society is evolving faster than businesses can naturally adapt. And I think that's what's really facing each and every one of us today. But here's the truth, and here's the harsh reality. Our customers are spoiled for choice, and they really don't care how hard it is for us to bring the physical and digital worlds together. They expect immediate value. They expect us to really understand what it is they're looking for from us. And like I said, it used to be a lot more predictable to be able to deliver a customer experience. We used to know how our customers behave because there's fewer choices, but there's so much choice now. There's so many ways that we can engage our customers. They're constantly being chased all over the internet. And guess what? They're smarter than us. They know how to game the system. They know that if I load up my shopping cart and then bail, you're going to come back with a discount in 24 hours or less, or even in hours, not even 24 hours, in minutes after abandoning the cart. So again, our customers, as I said earlier, are evolving faster than us. So you've got 2 options here. You can hope and pray that things will get better and go back to how it was, or you can start retrofitting your legacy platforms and processes to try and solve for this. But the reality is a lot of these systems depend on personalization rules that are really determined within touch points within each channel. And the fact is they're very reactive. We need to look at that and recognize that there's been an explosion of potential customer interaction points that ultimately, customers are using new channels, new devices, new applications, and more. And this is constantly evolving. And again, what was really surprising is there's a lot of good research out there that shows that basically, customers, the more channels they use, are getting poorer customer experience, which is crazy when you think about it. We've got all these channels we can engage a customer on, but the reality is it's getting more complicated. There's more friction, there's more tension, there's more stress involved in that. And this is something we need to address because, like I said earlier, they don't really care about how hard it is for us. They expect us to make their experiences simpler, more stress-free, and they don't really think in terms of channels. Customers do not view their engagement with you through a channel mindset. They don't think, oh, I'm in their web channel, or I'm in the physical retail channel, I'm in the email channel. They don't think in terms of that. Think of it as consumers yourself. You move between these channels in an effortless way. You don't even consider the fact that you're using them at all, actually. Yeah. So what's the challenge? The challenge really lies in the siloed nature of our organizations. Our organizations have created insular cultures and behaviors and processes and policies that really flourish inside these organizations. And we need to look at how can we break those functions down? How do we remove that sort of mindset that sees folks, protecting their space and not sharing data and insights and collaborating with their peers in order to optimize the customer experience they're delivering? we see a lot of the time that these folks become guardians, functional guardians, and are constantly at risk of really losing sight of what the customer sees. Yeah. So we really need, even when some of the businesses are leaning in here and trying to address this, they often are looking at driving a customer experience improvement just within a very small part of the overall customer journey. And what we have to realize is companies are wired for transactions. That's how they've been built. They're not been really built with a customer journey in mind. They're also wired to really maximize productivity and scale economies through functional units. And again, all great rational ideas as to why these concepts came about. But the reality is that businesses have to adapt the way they work. Journeys are more predictive of desired outcomes. Customers are more likely to repeat purchase, spend more, recommend you, and stay with your company for longer if they feel that they're getting the type of experience that they expect and demand. So touch points really need to be considered as transient and occur within channels. Yeah. Journeys are really holistic, independent of channels. They are ultimately what I, talk about as being channelless. This is what we need to be really thinking about. And that's really the cut and thrust of today's talk and today's sessions, is really thinking about, this as being an opportunity. So yes, it's a change is difficult, but it's also a chance to really drive our businesses forward and really adapt them to this new world. We've seen e-commerce explode in this last 2 years. We see the growth we've seen in the last 2 years has been more than what we've seen in the last 10 years. Yeah, I mean, actually, in 2020, what we saw there was the same growth in 1 year that we had occurred in 10 years. If you just look at the Philippines, 89% of Filipinos searched online for a product or service to buy. This is as of 2020. This is last year's data. Yeah. 88% of Filipinos visited an online retail store on the web, and 80% purchased a product or service online via one of their devices. I mean, so you're seeing a fundamental change in how the consumers are evolving across the globe and across this region and even locally. Yeah. So how do we adapt our businesses? We need to actually recognize that this part of the world is really leading the world in terms of e-commerce. If we look at the trend data right across, whether it's Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, we're seeing massive growth in terms of the consumers' adoption of e-commerce as a way of engaging with brands. So it's really actually exciting. This is a really exciting time to be involved in this space. And what we really will see is the brands that really understand this, they're the ones that will evolve their business models and continue to exist. They will be the ones that thrive in this environment. And this is the challenge I'm going to throw down to all of you today, is really to think about, building a channelless customer experience that brings an has an omni-channel component to that, really brings the front and back offices together in a way that enables you to connect with your customers and contextualize the customer experiences you give. Context is a really key word here, because again, what we want to do is use the data we're collecting about our customers and use it in a way that really sees us converge this data, really looks at how we can bring the front and back end systems together in a way that enables us to remove channels and make them feel visible. Really, we see this convergence of the experiences and capabilities of the business coming together to enable us to deliver what would be hopefully a beautiful and holistic customer experience. So Jack Ma, someone who I often reference, he's been a great thinker in this space, and he talked about pure e-commerce will be reduced to a transactional business and replaced by the concept of new retail, the integration of online and offline logistics data across a single value chain. In essence, what he's talking about here is this channelless customer concept that I'm talking about today. And it's a really exciting time because, we have got great technologies now available to us that can help power this, that enable us to build a customer data cloud that enables us to really start to get a sense of who is Nicholas Kontopoulos, what is it he likes, what are his passions, what does he tend to spend his money on, what types of accessories does he buy when he buys a product, using all those insights, all that data I'm sharing willingly, and using it in a way that creates a utility for me. And to do that, the business needs to look at how it closes the loop between offline and online. So if you're a brand that operates both in the physical and digital world, how do you bring those two worlds together? So often I see e-commerce initiatives kicked off in isolation to the retail side of the business, the physical retail side of the business. And they're often in competition with one another. How do we remove that straight out of the gate? We need to remove that, because at the end of the day, if I'm a customer and I get a voucher emailed to me or pushed to my phone, and I go into the physical store and get told, no, that's only available online, guess what? That is not an experience I want to receive. It's likely to see me move away from you as a brand. So how do I close that loop is really important. And to do this, we need to really transform our operating models. Most of the operating models that we use to run our businesses, guess what? Were designed in the 19th and 20th century. That's a fact. Like the sales and marketing funnel, I often do a pop quiz. I ask people, when was that created? And most people say, 1960s or 50s. Actually, it was created in 1898 by Sir Omar Lewis in the insurance, life insurance market. 1898. That's a 19th century business model that's still being used today. So we need to really think about how we change that mindset and the models we're using to run our businesses. And finally, we need to also think about how we bring our customers into the process of co-creating with us, really listening to our customers, using the data that they're sharing with us, having conversations with them, bring them into the conversation, ask them how we can improve the way we operate, really spending time following them, understanding how they engage with your brand through the different channels, using those insights to then inform the way you architect your go-to-market strategy is absolutely critical. I really wanted to give an example of a brand that I personally think does this beautifully well. Yeah, a lot of what I spoke about today is embodied by Athlete's Foot. They are a traditional retail store in Australia that sells, fantastic footwear for those that really want to go and get into exercise. You can go into one of their stores and they'll give you a tailored experience in terms of designing or finding a shoe that fits your foot. They actually do a foot ID and they look at your foot and they say, these are the shoes that are best recommended for you. And what's really great about that is if I go away and I think, yeah, that's fantastic. I love those shoes you just recommended to me, but I want to do a little bit more research. Maybe I want to do a bit more consideration around what I'm going to go for. I can go back to their website and really dig into their shoes and learn more about the shoe maybe I've had identified as being a good fit for me. I go in there and I start thinking, yeah, actually, I'm going to buy these shoes. I really want these shoes. I can go into this site now, find the shoe, look at the different specifications. Like I said, check out, make sure I'm feeling comfortable with the purchase. And then I go, you know what? I'm going to buy it. I'm going to hit the buy button. So I go in there and I can actually see, find a shoe, find a store where that shoe is available. Once I've identified the shoe size, where I can now find the actual stores where I can collect that. Check availability. Great. I can see that they've got a store nearby. At the time, I used to live near Bondi Beach, so I can actually find a shoe close to where I live, and there I go, bang, I can order those shoes and go and click and collect. Yeah, this is a great example. Different channels coming together, enabling me to deliver a really great experience, integrating the front and back office. So I'm, maybe able to do a stock lookup, make sure the stock's in store, and go and know and have high level confidence I can go collect those shoes. Fantastic example of how Adobe Commerce can really power that channelless customer experience. So again, Shep Hyken, another person I really follow, a great thinker. He's very, very big in customer service, and he says it really well here. People think customer loyalty is about a lifetime. It isn't really. Customer loyalty is about the next time, every time. We cannot just rely on our customers coming back to us each and every day because they've done that for the last 5 or 6 or 10 years, or even decades if they've been with us for a long time. The reality is there's a lot more choice now. We need to recognize that. We need to use the data we're collecting to know understand what we know about our customers and start trying to predict their behaviors within our ecosystem so that we can actually do a next best action in how we engage with them. So with that, I'm going to round out now. I'm coming to the back stretch of my presentation. We talk a lot about customer experience. We're very passionate about this, and this is something I love at Adobe. We can help work with our customers and our partners, our great technology partners, DotDigital, who you're going to hear from next, in helping you sort of craft a strategy that sees how you can engage with a customer from awareness to recommendation and everything in between. Really great and exciting time. There's a lot of great technologies that can enable you to deliver this. Another great thinker I'm going to finish up with is Peter Drucker, and he says it beautifully here, because the purpose of business is to create customer. The business enterprise has two and only two basic functions: marketing, innovation. Marketing, innovation produce results. All the rest are costs. Now, as a marketer, I love that quote. I was like, yeah, man, I can't agree with you more, Peter. But the reality is, if Peter was around today, I think he'd modify that quote and actually drop marketing and talk about customer experience innovation, those two being their two most basic functions. And customer experience for me is the entire enterprise. So whether you're in IT, marketing, sales, customer service, logistics, supply chain, all of you have to come together and being able to work together to deliver a really great customer experience. You have to take the fear out of, remove the fear, remove the friction from a customer wanting to engage with you. Really think about how they want to engage with you going forward using different technologies, different channels. And millennials and Gen Zs in particular are really, adapting and adopting technologies in ways that we've never seen before or considered before. And we have to move beyond personalization to individualization. We really need to think about how we use the data we're collecting to really tailor that experience. Because the reality is, those brands that get this, that do invest in this area, will see a significant uptick in their ability to grow their businesses. The Athlete's Foot example is a great example. They're part of Ascent Group in ANZ. They grew their business through a pandemic. How did they do that? They built out a solid, robust digital strategy that was able to kick in and support their business when the physical channels went down. So really worth investing. And look, I would love to say I could sell you one bit of technology that does all this. It isn't. And we can talk about that in the QA section. The reality is, you're going to need a ecosystem of suppliers and vendors you're going to work with to help deliver against this. And it really is a journey. It's not a destination. You're always going to have to adapt your models. And here's the other challenge. Don't wait for permission. Start challenging your businesses. Go out there and look into your businesses and start finding other colleagues in your business that really share that passion, so you can drive that change in your businesses. Don't wait for your CEOs or your CFOs to figure this out. Help build those business cases internally so you can drive the transformation that's needed. So with that, Bo, I'm going to hand back to you, my friend. Hopefully I didn't go over too much. But for those that want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free. I think I'm one of the only Kontopoulos is in there, so you should be able to find me pretty easily. Or if you scan that QR code, that'll get you there. So over to you, my friend Bo.
Well, thank you very much. Now, I did look through the phone book, and there's not a lot of Kontopoulos coming up, so I think that it won't be very difficult to find you. That is correct. Thank you very much, Nick. I am so sure that there is a lot of head spinning right now out there in our audience that perhaps got whatever they thought was a given now questioned back and forth with what you shared with us. It's great. Thank you. And I would like all of you to now start thinking about very complicated questions for Nicholas. There'll be a Q&A after this, and he will stay around to hopefully be able to answer whatever questions that you may have. Now, we are going to move forward, and we're going to still talk about customers. That is the topic of today. And to further drill down, we have invited Matthew McClelland. Matthew is from DotDigital, and he is there, the head of growth marketing for Southeast Asia, also situated in Singapore at this point in time. He is quite a known face in the community, and he's a known evangelist for customer experience, just like Nicholas. So you will hear more on this topic. Matt has been part of the community for more than 10 years, and he brings I would say, healthy dose of passion to the discussion today as well. Likewise, Matt, welcome to the Philippines, mate, and please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Bo. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. And to the team at the PRA, thank you again for the opportunity to speak today. It truly is an honor. I'm just loading up my presentation now, which I'll take you through very quickly at pace. The slides will be available after, should you wish. And equally, if you do have any challenging or difficult questions, both Nicholas and I are always up to the challenge, along with Bo and the team. I wanted to start the kind of present today really focusing on something that I'm also passionate about, being a huge fan of Disney. Cinderella It is a story as old as time, but with many amazing different versions. The actual true element of Cinderella is actually getting the chance to show the world who you really are, changing the hearts and minds and building something for the future. And so for those that might not have watched it in a while, as a little bit of a recap, our heroine Cinderella is tasked with doing all the cleaning, the washing up. She doesn't get any of the credit, as her two stepsisters who get all the attention as they behave and act in the way that everybody around them does. There's no respect for their sister Cinderella, and they're somewhat fearful of what she could be and therefore push her down to gain the spotlight for themselves. And then one night, all of that changes. A fairy godmother puts Cinderella center stage and gives her the opportunity to shine. She captures the hearts and minds of all around her, as to the prince, she's exactly what he's been searching for all of her life. And then, just as it began, it ends. But what Cinderella has actually done is change the world in which she lives, not just for her, but also for the prince and the other patrons. When we get to see what we can have, we will search for it, just like with their prince searching for the owner of a slipper. And so there isn't a single person on the planet that hasn't been touched or had to adapt and change over the last 2 years. And we continue to evolve and change that. I question, as we look to the kind of future, has the world of retail truly changed? Or is it that the signs have always been there and we've been slow to adapt to the needs and changes of our consumers? And so I'll transform us back 14 years when I started my career in the bed industry, working for a retailer, about $200 million turnover at the time with 200 physical stores, well-established, well-regarded, and the place that you went to get a bed. For anyone that's not gone mattress shopping recently, it's not an easy thing. Memory foam, latex foam, hyper foam, ultra pocket, jargon after jargon that comes at you. Each of that does come with a requirement though. They are built, and these products are built to support different weights and different individuals. I myself am an overweight man. My girlfriend is a 50-kilogram yoga teacher. We have different needs and requirements for something that we're going to spend a third of our life in. And so we went to experience retail at its finest and go around testing, trying, going into each of the stores to look at the different products. Denise went in completely ill-informed or uninformed. I have 3 years of education in the industry, less so. And so it was enjoyable having people pitch to me topics that I was well versed in. But we went, we tried, we tested. This was my method of testing our mattress. Hers was slightly differently, but we did that to get a feel for a product. And it's something you can only do within a retail store. I can't buy this product online and feel it and touch it and send it back. There's things you do, but for some products, you just have to go try it. And so we went, we tried, we tested, we went to 5 stores, and then we waited. After giving my email address and hand phone mobile number to the different sales associates, not one of them got back to us. This was not a small purchase. This was a considered purchase, and it was extremely expensive, but such was the case. Each of those retail stores had a plethora of customers. Malls were full. It allowed them the opportunity maybe to not give that individual experience to each one of their customer base. And then everything changed overnight. 80 to 90% drop in sales. Retail operations in many countries still not opening up to their full capacity. Here in Singapore, and I know in the Philippines as well, we're still kind of coming out of what has been the new norm over the last nearly 2 years. And so I ask, in this sense, could we have, changed, adapted the challenges that we faced as traditional retailers? Could it be something that had been predicted, our e-commerce not being where we wanted it to be and not being the flagship that we solely want it to be within our omni-channel infrastructure that we go for? And so there is a messaging piece. Okay. Sorry, is my video not on?
Your video is not on.
We cannot see you.
That is a shame.
So looking forward to see you, man.
Thank you, sir. Let me just see if that can work.
Oh,
there we
that's
go.
so much better.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you're on now.
Thank you very much. And thank you for letting me know that that wasn't working. Let me just quickly go back to the screen share.
I didn't have the heart to stop you either.
Why, thank you. Fantastic. Can everyone see my screen again okay? I was moving around like this as well, so apologies, not everyone got to see me dancing. I'm going to ask a question. I'd appreciate that the chat is open there. Does anybody know who these two gentlemen are? In the effort of time, I will skip through. There's a more recognizable face for those that are on it as well. Thank you both for nodding. These two gentlemen, this is Reid Hastings and Mark Randolph. And in 2000, they had a small little online company. This company was known as Netflix, and they approached a large retailer, a large video retailer known as Blockbuster, to sell their company for $50 million. And now, to something Nicholas mentioned earlier about trying, testing, doing something new, there's nobody, no matter what test that you do, no matter what you challenge yourself to do, you cannot make the bigger mistake than the executive at Blockbuster that laughed Mark Randolph and Reid Hastings out of their office for even suggesting that they would buy them for $50 million. So I challenge everyone to look at this as a way in which evolution has changed, and it's such a short space of time. In those last kind of number of years, where Blockbuster has now become completely irrelevant, there's one store based on the thousands they used to have, but actually digital media and the way in which we consume information is completely different. In the 80s, it was very simple. You had a Blockbuster film, you basically placed a pair of self-lacing Nikes on Michael Fox, and with that, a hoverboard. Now, those two things came synonymous with every child of the 80s and 90s, that's what they wanted. And such has changed that it's still the same for us today. On Netflix, for example, there's a popular TV show called The Queen's Gambit. For those that haven't watched it, this is a show about a tennis chess master. And a tennis chess master, it's a couple of episodes that you go through. It's a very enjoyable evening if you do want to watch it. But the premise of this was important for me in that there's a small chessboard manufacturer just outside of Barcelona in Spain. And they sell about 20 to 22,000 chessboards every year. In the release of the week post-release of the Queen's Gambit, they received over 40,000 orders. The way in which we're getting the information, the way in which we're being sold to and positioned, and the drivers that we have is now across more TV boxes, video boxes. We're not all sat around the one TV, someone having to step up to go and press the button to consume that next advert. Adverts are on multiple channels, the lights are all around us, and the ways in which we have that information transposed to us is constantly evolving and changing. And such is the case, there were people that we listen to is changing. No longer do we go as experts or brands to scientists and PhD students in the media, maybe to position and sell what it is our products do, because actually there's other influencers out there that people are listening to. And so we are more informed. We are individuals. Thankfully, my video is on. I can kind of show my phone up. Having this device gives me access to a world of retail. It's a forever on store. It's always there for me to consume information that makes me, I don't want to say it, but smarter than the salesperson I'm going into. I will certainly feel that way when I've done my desktop research ahead of going into a store to make a considered purchase. And so as we come away from kind of the notion of how we have individuals in stores that help us, what is our online operation? We start to look at the challenges that some retailers have faced as we come to the end of the kind of the new dawn and kind of where we're progressing. What is it that we need to be focused on? And so the team at Retail Associates very kindly arranged for Nicholas and I and some of the other Adobe and DotDigital team to speak to retailers in the Philippines earlier this year as we prepared the content that we're delivering for you today. These are well-known retailers, conglomerates, large store owners, all across the Philippines who are facing similar challenges. On the day, there was a caricaturist that took down some of the salient points, the elements that were coming up more and more as each of these retailers expressed how things have evolved for them, what's changed, what do they want to deliver, how is it that they've evolved their business during this pandemic. You see here, it was just in March this year. And something kept coming up more and more. Every one of the retailers jumped marketplaces. They had to. It was their only option. Things had changed over time. Their brand.com wasn't ready. It wasn't in the states that it needed to be. They didn't have that last mile set up. Their customer experience wasn't potentially there. This is something that keeps coming up time and time again. Marketplaces are a fantastic way to launch a brand. They're also great for established brands to have a differentiated product offering, and they have a very good use case. But what it doesn't give us is access to our customers. Each of these is slowed down ecosystems. Customers love the marketplace. Lolo and Lola have to go to the shop anymore. They can get their weekly shopping. They can get all the products they want. They can shop at 3 a.m. and for next day delivery. They get everything that they want. They've unlocked this ability to have control of their lives. And this is one demographic, but digital freedom has come to all genres, all demographics. Why would they want to go back? They're able to do everything previously done to get what they need. This digital freedom is a place for them to shop, play, socialize, experience. I said to Bo just yesterday, thankfully for the pandemic, my father now holds his phone like this rather than like this, so I see up his nose. We've become savvy in how we utilize technology. But the reason marketplaces are so attractive is they control that last mile. That last mile delivery is the customer experience. It's that lasting thought when you buy a high ticket item, like a car, like a house. This person that you sold it to you shakes your hand and says, thank you very much for your business. It's that one-to-one individualized personal service. And we get that with the marketplaces. SMS delivery, your order's on the way, it'll be delivered in the next hour. The driver's just around the corner. How was it? Please leave a review. Please give us feedback. And these feedback and this information is then used to influence other people's behavior. This is one of the things that the marketplace themselves have been able to create or recreate that physical experience online. And that's the physical experience online that the retailers we spoke to in March really wanted. And that was their challenge. E-commerce for them, they said, is here to stay. Social selling is a rise. It's something that they need to look at. To Nicholas's point earlier, it's another element of, you know, all this noise that's coming towards us. And so looking at each one of these different noises is quite easy when you take a map like this that gives you access to all the different elements that your customer would go through those 4 key stages. If you're looking to reach, convert, engage, follow them through this life cycle. And by understanding that life cycle, we as individuals, merchants, as retailers can make decisions. And so in this future of an informed customer that knows what memory foam is, and an expectation that if I walk into store, buy online, browse, they want to be known as an individual who needs to be listened to and responded to on the channels that they want to be communicated on. And this is something, just as a preamble, DotDigital have been helping merchants, retailers globally for the last 21 years achieve just this, to connect your customer data points, to have that data in a central location and use it to deliver insight that drives different digital behaviors. And I wanted to kind of share a couple of examples of the merchants and retailers that have gone through this journey, just as we all are, and some of the things that they did to try and focus a key challenge that they were overcoming. Canmo is no better example of really overcoming the last kind of 2 years. They have 700 physical retail stores in Indonesia. It's an incredible real estate that they go through. They equally are a multi-brand distributor, knowing customers that shop with Nespresso versus Coach, Justice, baby products. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of channels and noise that they go through, and having a way in which they focus all of that into a single place to deliver insight. And once we have insight into our customers and we know what they're going to buy next, the products that they're most likely to purchase, how engaged they are with us as a brand, what is their next purchase phase? How are they interacting? Are they happy with the products that they bought from us? This is information that is stored. It's in the digital arena. It's available for you to go and grab. It needs to be put in a single place and then use that to drive different behaviors and journeys. Journeys are at the heart of what makes a business successful. And I look at something as simple as a retail operation. You know, it's not a simple task in any way, shape. You know, you walk into a store though, and you have someone that greets you, says, good morning, good afternoon. Is there anything I can help with you today? That is a physical touch point that we have. Within that, that's known as a digital world, that's known as a welcome series. And the team at Trapo, Yonit here is the CMO. One of his challenges was to recreate that physical store experience online. He had 2 stores pre-pandemic, and during the pandemic actually set up 7 in a total, so 5 more. And his focus was around delivering that retail experience through his digital channels. And he wanted to do that because the product he sells, being car accessories, is something that had a rising shift in awareness. And his focus, as he's told us many, many times, was to understand what our customers have purchased from us, what are they shopping for on the website right now, and how can I get them the information they need to make a purchase. And he does that through automating different digital journeys. And we could talk a little bit more about that later. But as we come to the kind of the summary and end of the presentation, the reason I wanted to share those stories is each of them have their own individual challenges. With such a large retail presence, what value does the e-commerce operation add into and enrich through that journey? And it's something that Nicholas very eloquently described earlier. But each of these retailers had to, during the last 2 years, adopt and adapt new behaviors to have that customer-centric approach. And just like the Prince and Cinderella who represents your customers, they've seen the Cinderella now. They've seen what it can be to buy online, to pick up in store, to have that same day delivery. They've had that experience of what e-commerce can deliver to them. They're having and continuing to have that with platforms like marketplaces that are evolving and giving them exactly what they want. And so ourselves as retailers, we have to look at the experience of our customers and what they want and deliver a way in which we can deliver a unified customer experience across all touch points and control that ourselves. Something as simple as finding the right fulfillment partner was a comment a friend of mine made last night. He said he searched between 3 or 4 different companies to find the right one that expressed his brand, as he wanted his packaging handed to the customer in a particular way. He didn't want it to be left or thrown. And as you're building a brand, as you're building a business, as he is, it was super important that he did that. As a final thought, a new wave has come about. Retailers have dipped their toe in the world of e-commerce. Some quickly set up a store, have it going, and it's working for them. It can work harder. When we put customers at the heart of everything we do, communicate with them on the channels they want to in a personal way, we'll build a brand for the future. And finally, as one of my favorite quotes, perhaps the greatest risk any of us will ever take is to be seen who we really are. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And back to you, Bo.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. Inspiring as always. And it was a pleasure to also see you halfway through the presentation. A bit of a Cinderella moment right there. So the next part of today's session is Q&A, and I'm hoping that the audience has now, jotted down a number of complicated, hopefully, questions for Matt and Nicholas. I should be getting those questions coming up in front of me, but before I do that, let me just say a few words about what we've just heard here. So the first thing that happened was we heard Nicholas talk to us about the channelless customer, and I think that is to be taken note of both by retailers as well as technology providers like my company. We think a lot about our strategy for our stores. We think a lot about our strategy for certain malls. We think a lot about our strategy for online, for mobile, etc. I think Nicholas cannot turn that upside down by saying, look, the customer doesn't care, period. So the customer doesn't really care what your strategy is for mobile or web or store. The customer just wants a positive experience. And I think if we start thinking about that in that way, then all of a sudden, a lot of our conventional thinking will be thrown out the window, and we need to now change to the other side of the table and start thinking like a customer. That's probably very healthy for IT people. It's probably very healthy for retailers. I think we need to also realize that coming out of COVID, we saw the picture of Lola and Lola with a mobile phone. I think that is what's going to happen, right? You have people that all of a sudden discovered mobile in a way that they have never done before, and they realize how easy it is. And in the Philippine context, how much time you spend not going to a store. And what do we do to meet those demands? And what do we do to get people back into the stores? What is the experience they're looking for that will make that, hour in the traffic worth the while to go to the store? Nicholas pointed out in a great example of the athlete's foot, where you have that blend of the experience that you want in the store with a fitting your shoe, but then the actual purchase is happening online. Great example of now how that experience is blended. I think the next thing we talked about is on the topic of the driver. Perhaps in the old times, the e-com store is there more to for the customers that really want to buy online. How do we change that behavior now for e-com to be a major part of our annual revenue in retail? And what do we need to do to drive sales in a very different way through our e-commerce channel? And last but not least, we heard both Matt and Nick talk about customer experience. Nick said it's not about the customer experience, it's about the next time, and it's about every time. And then Matthew chipped in, it's Cinderella time, and can it be Cinderella time every day for every customer every time they visit your store, whether that store is on a mobile phone, online, in the mall, or why not all of that at the same time? Because that is most probably what our post-COVID customers actually looking for. And with that, I am hoping that I will be seeing now questions coming in through this channel. Before I do that, I have a couple of questions that I've actually prepared. I want to start with Nicholas. Are you ready, Nicholas?
I'm always ready, matey.
Always ready. Yeah, that's fantastic. All right. So I looked through a bit of statistics. I like that, and the common belief has been that the Philippines has been way behind other Asian countries in terms of adoption of e-commerce and all of that. But present data shows, in fact, exactly the opposite. In fact, I read a study just yesterday that says that the Philippines is now the third country in the world where consumers buy items online on a mobile device, which is going to be very, very, very different to what it was before. What do you think, the way you see more on a global perspective, what does that mean for Filipino retailers, and how should they change now to adopt to this new mobile first kind of customer that we're seeing?
I mean, I was talking at the Meet Magento Singapore event about mobile last week. Actually, that was the first physical event I've been back to, which was fantastic. But again, Facebook recently published some research that was specific to Southeast Asia as a whole, and it basically said, I think it was 95% of people access the internet now on their smartphones. The region's also seen another 70 million people come online, during the pandemic. So 100%, you have seen a significant acceleration of the digital penetration in every market. And I think, we've talked a lot about mobile for a few years now. It's not a new topic, but what we're seeing definitely is a realization now across the board that we need to invest in this area. So again, Adobe Commerce has been investing heavily in building out capabilities for mobile. We've got PWA Studio. For those that aren't familiar with PWA, it's progressive web apps. Again, an area that is really exciting, because obviously building your own mobile apps quite expensive. Getting that onto someone's phone and landing it there is quite expensive. So progressive mobile, progressive web apps opens up a whole world of possibilities for you to build an app that can work online and offline at a much lower cost point. So Google was pioneering that technology, and Magento, now Adobe Commerce, has partnered with them in that respect. So I think thinking about mobile and how you bring that in to any marketing and e-commerce strategy is absolutely critical going forward, because again, a lot of the content consumption is taking place there. Now, that doesn't mean it stays on the mobile, everything that starts with the mobile finishes the mobile. No, you again, this gets back to this channelless sort of concept. You need to be able to deliver a rich experience, not just on the mobile, but on the laptop, but then also in store. And how do you bring those together is really important.
Yeah. Yes, and I think mobile in store is another concept that is becoming evident, right? Matthew talked to us about, finally, I know more than the salesperson. And in many instances, don't you see people in the store with a mobile phone, and they're checking reviews, they're checking facts, etc., before they actually do their purchase. So, you have that aspect as well. Right, I've got a great question here, Nicholas, and I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to read it to you. This is from our audience. Retail companies are some of the oldest companies in the Philippines. They are where they are because of their past strategies and tactics. We're now asking them to approach omnichannel, B2C, digital, etc. Likely, this is unknown to them. Now, here's the question. What are the top 5 points that must be present in current retailers for this innovation and adoption to be successful and to be sustainable? I think that's a great question.
It's a great question. I might even get to 5, but I'll give you definitely a quick list that springs to mind. I'm a big fan of the work of Simon Sinek. If you're not familiar with his work, I really encourage you to read at least one of his books, which was the first I read, and it's Know Your Why. Really critical. Yeah, and I think a lot of businesses that have built their business, a lot of founders that have built their businesses really had a clear understanding of why they did what they did. Yeah. They had a clear purpose, in terms of what they were, a problem that they were trying to solve and a way of doing that. And the why is why people would come to them and keep buying from them. And as a business gets bigger and gets more complicated, you got more different departments, we often lose sight of why we do things. We know how and what to do, but we lose sight of why we do it. And this is what Simon Sinek talks about. So really, number one thing, read his book, really get an understanding of, and trying to drive a conversation around, why do people buy from us? Is it still the same reason? I mean, are they still coming, because again, you can rely on inertia a lot of the times to keep your business rolling forward, but then a new competitor comes in and offers a differentiated experience with a more clearer why as to why they should buy from, and then you start to see people move away. So I think number one, really start with your why and understanding what the purpose of the business is, and from there, it becomes very much about your people. Yeah, so really investing and making sure you've got the right people in the roles you need them to be in. Having the right leadership and vision, which will be part of the purpose, but then bringing your people on a journey. When you drive transformation, you have to bring your people on that journey. They need to understand why is this something I should care about? So really investing in your people, bringing them on that journey, understanding and helping them understand why the transformation is important for them as well as for the business as a whole. Then you need to start thinking about your business processes. Again, often, when you go to a business, they say, oh, this is how we've always done something. Yeah, okay, great, get that. But is it still relevant? Is it actually adding value? Is the process still supporting the business in the way it needs to be supported? Is there an opportunity for us to reimagine the way we design the processes that are going to support the business? And that to me is really important. So really think about the people and then the processes. How do we take advantage of the changing behaviors and changing ways that customers are working with us to reimagine the way we engage with them? And then there's the technology layer, and I finished with technology last intentionally. You might think, why is he starting with that? Why didn't he start saying straight out of the gate, focus on technology? Because that would be the wrong thing to do. You really need to start with the people and have a clear why as to why the people should be moving on that transformation journey, whether you identifying what needs to change in terms of the business to be able to support the way customers are now engaging with you and the behavior changes you're seeing there, and then using the technology and bringing partners in that understand your business and understand the available technologies are absolutely critical here. Yeah. And then using those technologies to then enable that transformation, because without technology, you will not get the scale you need and the reach you need in order to support your business 100%. So it's not that it's the least important of the three, they're all equally important, but those will be the three areas, so have a very clear strategy, clear purpose, that then your people can rally around. And when I say people, not just your employees, also your ecosystem of folks that are going to support that business, because your partners, your suppliers, all of them are very critical in that journey. And then your processes and then your technologies. Those are the three key areas I'll be leading out with. Not 5, but 3. There you go. I can give you more, but I think those are the top 3. Yeah, 3 areas I would start with.
Well, thank you so much. I am sure that question was now more than properly answered.
Okay.
Matthew, I have a question for you, and you're not going to get away with no questions. So earlier we heard Nicholas talk about the channelless customer, and I think we also heard about the importance of individualization over personalization. I think that is important because you might sort of mistake the two for being the same thing. It's actually not, and that's the question. What kind of strategy do you think, the way you look at how where we're at right now, should retailers embark on today to be able to facilitate exactly that conversion? Meaning, how do you have a one-to-one conversation with customers as part of your marketing strategy? Because that is the true essence of individualization, right? As a business, I'm talking to Nicholas, not everyone that is like Nicholas, right?
Thank God. So, yeah.
It's absolutely, as we've noticed more and more, we want to be seen as an individual. We want to be noticed for our special qualities, however small and minute that those qualities are. We want all the coffee ranges that we can have. Starbucks helps us with that. You can order using 5 incoherent words the most elaborate coffee on the planet. But it comes down to your customers, and I feel that we could come up, and I loved obviously Nicholas there talked through that people process technology. I'm going to focus in on individuals and people. It's a mindset change when you want to go from marketing to individualization. As time's gone by, a story, the commercial director of the job I first had told me that the online store will never beat the sales of one of my retail stores. Don't worry, in 3 years, I proved him wrong on that one. But what we have there is a mindset change of where the pecking order that digital has sat. And it's just not to say that, in some economies, it has changed. And there's certainly more of a kind of online focus, or, you have online owner businesses. But the piece of that for each brand, it's different in how we meet and greet and exceed our customers' expectations. So I would, for any retailer looking to have that individualized approach, take your business hat off for a second and pretend you are your customer, or even grab a couple of your customers and get them to walk into a store. What's the first thing they experience? Is there somebody there to say, hi, is there anything I can help you with today? Is that something that is synonymous with your brand, that you would have greeters, shop assistants, store essentials, experts that can help you? If so, look at programs that can automate that and personalize it down to the individual. There's nothing more frustrating than going to a website, jumping straight off because it's not in stock, for example, that product that I want. But actually, I didn't know that the newer model is available, and that's the reason why it's not in stock. A retail assistant would know that, and therefore we can have that same program delivered through digital, utilizing things, the terminology is abandoned cart, abandoned browse, as kind of the digital version of what that retail experience. So for me, to actually facilitate those one-to-one conversations, yes, you need the technology, but we also need to bring to the forefront the elements that digital can present, and do a kind of store walkthrough to say, how can I deliver this customer experience and what my customers get, why my customers buy from you. Again, to the Simon Sinek point, what is the why of this business? We need to transfer that over to online, utilizing programs, welcome campaigns. Thank you very much. Welcome to the store. Abandoned cart, abandoned browse, all of these are the terminology to focus on if you're looking to kind of build out that program.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Now we have another excellent question, and this is from my friend Bobby Claudio from Toby Sports. And in fact, didn't we just talk about Toby Sports yesterday, Matthew? I'll read Bobby's question, and this is a question that I think every retailer have, especially now that the malls are opening up again. Can you give me your fearless forecast of where retail will go in the future? Will brick and mortar disappear? Will pure online rule the way people will buy, or will it settle into omnichannel? Meaning, as a retailer, will we have to serve the customers the way they want to? And how do we do that? I added the last. Who wants to take that great question?
I mean, it's a big question. So I'll take a stab at it in the sense of, obviously, there's a big umbrella or big tent, I should say, that encompasses retail when you think about all the different types of retailers that would sit under that tent. So, what I'm going to speak to is more a general sort of point of view in terms of what I see happening in terms of retail. And the first part of that question, will we see sort of, was it the physical stores drop away, or, so I in short, I don't think it's going to be one or the other. It'll be both. Yeah, I feel that you will see both operate in harmony, in continuing to do so. I don't know about most folks here, but the first thing I wanted to do after lockdown was go out and shop and physically go into stores and meet people. That genuinely was a genuine desire I had to go out and interact with folks. And, I think there is something to be said about human interaction, that physical interaction. So I don't think that's ever going away. I think the human's DNA, we're wired that way. I don't think we're ever going to not want to have some kind of physical interaction, but we just want that to be meaningful and valuable. Yeah. So when we go out, as long as you're creating that experience, I feel that that's still going to be quite important. But then how do you marry that with the digital become critical? This is the key. Yeah. How do you bring those two worlds together? Look and the feel of the digital store and physical store should be similar, in terms of the experience I'm having, the messaging, the content, the way that I'm engaged. There should be a harmonization between those. And I think that's the trick. That's the challenge for all of us, So whether you're a digital brand moving into the physical world, which is definitely what we're seeing. Yeah, we're seeing more of those digital brands moving that way, as well as the physical moving into the digital. In actual fact, I'd argue the physical brands have a strategic advantage in that respect, because that's a harder discipline in a lot of respects to learn overnight. However, I will point to a very good example of a brand that I think has done a fantastic job in bringing these two worlds together. And that would be someone, well, aside from Athlete's Foot, who I genuinely thought was a great example. They're a fantastic example. But, I'm an Apple fanboy. Apple is an interesting brand. This is a company that makes hardware and software. Yeah, that's what they do. They're a hardware software manufacturer, yet they went into retail, what was it, about 8-10 years ago, I think. And then they became, at the time, and I still think they're up there in the top 5, the most profitable retailers on the planet, per square foot of space that they make a really good return on that. And how they do that? They weren't retailers. So they really studied and learned and looked outside their industries for inspiration. So my challenge to the retailers, the physical challenge to retailers, is to look outside, not just at your competitors, but look at other industries for inspiration and how they're using digital to engage your customers. I think that's a great point of reference, is in looking at how Apple did that and translate that into a successful business model. So in short, I think there's a bright future for everyone, for those that really understand and lean into the importance of creating this channelless customer experience I talked about. What about you, Matt? What do you think, mate?
Well, firstly, I think I've cheated on this test, because actually Bo was very kind to, we had a good long chat yesterday, which inspired me to put together a few extra slides. So, and secondly, I feel like we spend a bit too much time together, Nicholas, as our examples are getting very, very similar. But that said, it's a beautiful position to be in. So actually, I'll quickly show, this is what I was going to kind of talk through, which was, again, to exactly the point that Nicholas has just made.
So we definitely, we were very, very too close in our thinking. That's so funny, because the audience doesn't know this, but we didn't have a conversation about this beforehand. So it just shows that we're not off too far apart in terms of our thinking. But yeah, keep going, Matt. This is great.
Yeah, and to kind of focus on a specific point you mentioned, though, was just around the experience. And to Roberta's question, which specifically, will brick and mortar disappear? No. Does brick and mortar need to evolve? Yes. And so Apple is a perfect example of, yes, a company that can make a phone for $400 and sell it for $2,000. But actually, their retail operation is a customer hub. It's an experience center. It's a beautiful place to go, to look at their products, to try them out, to test them, to touch, feel. There's not much variety when you look at an Apple product. If you bought a dedicated gaming machine, maybe like an Alienware, you can customize everything. With Apple's, you can barely customize 2 or 3 things. The element you can is the accessories. You can go experience and test them. These retail stores that I'm showing now are huge square foot in very prominent locations. And again, Nicholas has even shared, this is still the very profitable arm of their business. They even have, and the thing that I want to do is that they focus on the experience when you go in there. So I went in to get my phone fixed, I bought a watch, and I listened to a presentation on how to take great photos. They run this all day long, how to use your phone, how to get the most out of it. Let me teach you something you didn't know. And so the experience there is to go interact and go see Apple. And when you walk in, you're greeted by people, it's experience, it's enjoyable. And so, very poor picture, but the stores that we have that are out there are going to need to evolve. And this has already started. You know, simple examples here of, if you want to go buy a golf club, you go to a store, and if they've got a putting green, you try it out, you experience it. You can see whether, you know, is it 100 centimeters or 102 centimeters that actually feels good for you. These are experiences you cannot get online. This is something, when you marry offline and online, the why of why do you have a physical store and what value does it bring comes from the thing that you can't do. You have to go test it out. But then element to it is just by putting a simple chair or a table in a bookshop, people will sit down, read, interact, socialize, experience those books. We even have, you know, I still remember going to classes and we'd sit there in a library reading different books, or there was story time, and that was an experience that we went to go get. And so the two elements is give something you cannot do online and give an experience that makes people want to go do it. That for me is the future of retail. I can't test out how good those speakers are through the setup I already have. I need to go somewhere and experience it. This is a beautiful example of how we've now individualized, make it feel like a home. People are going in and experiencing, they're not just seeing or hearing what you're doing. And so I then started, in preparation for this presentation, this element of it, this question that kind of posed is, you know, if you ask people what they want, they're going to just tell you or give you an example. Equally, Henry Ford, or whether it was Steve Jobs, a lot of time people don't actually know what you want. You need to kind of show them what it is. And I stole this, Nicholas, from your side, because this is what I'm intentionally talking about. It's the smell, it's the touch, it's the feel. This is the element of physical retail we need to do. And so I actually found an example in the Philippines that I really liked. Toby Sports here was very much focused on sporting equipment and goods, and in a large flagship store, they actually have this, which is the Toby Shootout. This is experience. This is where you go, play with the balls, experience, test out the shoes maybe. I'm not sure, I've not had the pleasure yet of being to the Philippines, but what I did notice is they then married this. This is an offline, this is an experience that I go to. You go to the play zone, you enjoy it. This is in a physical retail store, and an element of physical experience we can deliver. But on top of it, they then had a basketball player come down. They had a shootout king competition. This is marrying the offline now with the online. If you have this streaming, if you have your Facebook page, your live stream, people can interact. They can share, you know, my favorite one's Paul, I like Ralph better. They're engaging with you as a brand. They're giving you that experience. So I really liked this one. And this is a perfect example of how, you know, a retailer can deliver something very simple that breeds competition, excitement, engagement. People can come down, enjoy. It's an event that you can go to. The next level of retail is how then do we digitize more of it? How do we give back and marry the same experiences you would get online? How can I have those people that can't come down to the store because they're 2 hours away? Give them still the feel that they're there. Multi-screen streaming, people walking around, live sessions, interactivity, Q&A. There's all sorts of things that digital could give us for those people not fortunate to visit in physical. But we need to start putting that digital, the opportunity at the forefront of what we do. We need to be able to have experience there.
Wow, thank you. That's a great answer.
That was a bonus content session. But I just want to pick up on a point that Matt shared there, which really sparked an idea, a point that I think is really important. Is because again, like I said, you've got this broad tent of retailer. You've got, you know, not everyone can be Apple. Yeah, let's be honest. Yeah, not all of those folks listening today have the ability to replicate that model in the sense of, you know, that type of experience. In the sense of the showroom experience. They've got a lot of products that they need to bring out and show their customers, for example. But where you can take a leaf or you know, out of Apple's book is how they their employees, the way they train their staff is amazing. Yeah. So when you walk in, and again, you look at any of the brands that are really successful, their staff are really care about and enjoy what they're doing. They feel that they're being empowered and provided the level of training needed to deliver that experience. And I think if you do make those investments, you can move quickly in terms of that direction of delivering a really great experience. So yeah, Matt, those are brilliant points. And I love that final example. You know, being able to just go out and shoot some hoops. I mean, that's freaking awesome. You know, be able to, you know, test out the shoes. It's a great example. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that, mate.
You got to come up to the Philippines, Nicholas.
Mate, I'll be there quick as a flash. Last time I was in Manila, I put on about 2 kilos. So I look forward to getting back there for sure.
All right, I'm gonna stay on target here because I'm being told that we are over time.
Oh, okay. No worries.
But with great questions, I hope that we can take a few more minutes because you know we're seeing them coming in. Now, here is one for you, Nicholas. You are from Adobe, and Adobe is obviously well known for Photoshop, for all the graphical tools that Adobe has been producing for years and years and years, as well as marketing automation, as well as document management, etc. We all use probably Adobe products every day. Now, you talked about Adobe Commerce Cloud, and that's why you're here today. Can you tell us a little bit more about how will Adobe Commerce Cloud, in conjunction with the greater Adobe platform, how does that make e-commerce and individualization and adoption to the new normal? How will all that come together the way you look at it from where you sit at Adobe?
Yeah, okay. So I came into Adobe through the acquisition of Magento. And as you pointed out at the start, Magento was acquired by Adobe. We're now known as Adobe Commerce. So the Magento community is still very vibrant and very much alive. And what's exciting about that acquisition, and I was genuinely excited when we got acquired, because I as someone who's passionate about customer experience, I was going into a company that really understands customer experience and delivers a broad palette of capabilities. Let me give you a very simple example. I'm a marketing leader. Yeah, I'm effectively, able to come up with, strategies and ideas and see those being put into market. So let's give you a sort of a real life example of what's possible for a marketer today. I could be out running in McRitchie Park in Singapore, lovely park, be out jogging, have an idea for a campaign, get on my smartphone, ring my team and say, hey team, this is an idea I've got for a campaign. I want you to start working up some creative for this campaign. All right. And I want to have a look at a mock up in, 3 hours time. I'm being a bit hard on my team. I'm making them work extra hard here. Yeah. I get into the office in a couple of hours time. I can start looking at some creative in terms of the campaign idea concept that they've used Adobe Creative Suite to build out. They've also used the document management tools capabilities and then some of our workflow management capabilities in order to start getting that work fired up. I can then say, excellent, let's get this campaign out the door. I want to fire it out through all channels. Yeah, all of a sudden we're pushing, marketing automation firing up in terms of email campaigns. We've got our paid media campaigns going live. We're pushing this out. People are engaging with the content. I'm seeing straight away insights of how the campaign's flying, but I'm also now seeing the campaign being engaged by customers like Matt, say, who's now diving into my website and starting to have a tailored experience delivered to him, because I already know what Matt's into. I already know he's a gamer. He loves, Razer headphones. And I'm going to have him start seeing content that positions to him precisely based on those insights. He engages with the offer. He's going, wow, I want to buy these new Razer headphones because they're going to give me that extra crisp sound that I'm looking for. He can transact online and then ultimately have those goods shipped to him. That is the Adobe Commerce story that we get to tell each and every day now. The Adobe core capabilities that we deliver there are being delivered. DotDigital is involved in that experience I delivered. They're delivering those emails that I was talking about is one example. Maybe we're using their platform to then ultimately deliver that. So this is where I get genuinely excited about it. So I could geek out for hours on that, but hopefully that gives you a broad understanding of why I think the acquisition was great and also what it offers and means to customers going forward.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm sure that now maybe brought the Adobe vision in this area a bit more to life to the audience.
Cool.
I have 2 questions that are somewhat related, and I'm going to try to describe the 2 of them because we talked about how important the customer experience is. Now, the customer experience is, of course, not only, you know, when you hit an e-commerce site and eventually buy something. Part of that experience is when you actually get the goods, right? And getting the goods could either mean that somebody delivers it to you, to your doorstep, to your office, or wherever, or alternatively that you order something online and you pick it up at the store. And both of those interactions is obviously part of the customer experience. The questions are, how do you see the importance and what kind of improvements can be done in that area as part of the overall customer experience? Any takers?
I kind of touched on it in the presentation.
I know you did.
No, I love the question though, and I think it's one of the biggest challenges, especially from a integration perspective. You know, you've got e-commerce site over here, you've got a retail operation, and a lot of the merchants, and Bo, you and I have talked about this numerous times, which is they're actually looking to switch up their retail operation into more click and collectors. They've got these physical outlets, and they can use them as part of their distribution network to deliver within not 2 to 3 days, but actually 2 to 3 hours. And that's an evolution from a technology perspective. From a business perspective, you know, the stats out there, and there's some stats I just quickly pulled up that specifically in the US, but 49% of shoppers made an additional purchase while picking up their items in store. There's a reason we put the milk and the rice at the back of a supermarket, because they have to meander all the way through and meander all the way back. You will increase your average basket size. Data has shown this from time and time again. But coming back to that last mile, the last mile for me is, let me know when the product's going to arrive. Nicholas and I and everyone is going back out now, so I'm not in the house 24 hours a day. So a delivery window of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. does not work. It needs to be I need to be able to select it. I need to be able to give you instructions. If there's a problem, I need to be able to get in touch with you. These are the elements I need to do as a consumer. Now, once the product is now on its way to me, delivery reminders, SMS delivery. SMS is the beautiful channel for that. It's ubiquitous across every market except Japan as a one to be used as a channel to kind of say your order's around the corner, just to let you know it's coming. But equally, once it's been delivered, any problems, please let us know. Lots of love, retailer. That then provides us with that great experience to make sure that I or someone else is available to collect that product. Equally, I need to be known 2-3 days before if it's something that I might have ordered a long time ago when it's coming as well. Finally, once that actually has been delivered, that experience that I go through. A good friend of mine is last night took me out to about his new business he's setting up, and when his product is being delivered, he wants that. It's a slight dopamine hit that we all get. It's that experience when you hand over your $20 that your mum gave you to buy something in the mall while you were shopping with friends. It's the same hit that we get. And so he says he wants that hit to continue. He wants that feeling, that good feeling to continue. And the way he's doing it is once the product has been delivered in a particular way, as they get the product and open it up, not just the packaging, but they spray a scent. And so when you open it up, the box actually has a physical smell. So it's not cardboard or the products that are in it, it's their scent. And I thought that just for a spritz at like 10 cents or whatever it cost him, and he's picked out the scent that he wants, he's delivering that continuous journey of his brand. And he said once he opens a retail store one day, that will be the smell that's around, because he actually wants to engage all the senses, both touch, feel, physical, smell, so that they know who his brand is. So question for me is around having clear communication, giving the option to communicate back to you should there be any questions. I'm thinking my delivery the other day had 3 things wrong with it. 3 items were missing and had been substituted. Tell me how to get in touch because I don't need that many bananas. Equally, once you actually have that, it's that customer experience, it's that the belief, the customer service team that you speak to, they've got to be responsive, well-trained, believing in the brand and there to help the customer. If you do those right, you are marrying the offline, the online. If I come in with an online order, you need to be able to help me. It doesn't matter that I'm coming into a physical store. If you marry all that together, you'll be onto a winner.
Yeah, and just to build on Matt's points there, I mean, a customer experience is only as good as the employee experience you're delivering. So again, that's really important. We often forget about the employee experience, and it's such a critical component of the strategy. Yeah. So if you're delivering, like I said earlier, that training, that support, providing the tools that enable them to deliver on the brand promises I talked about, and so that you can keep those promises, That's really critical. That will help drive a successful customer experience strategy 110%. Yeah.
Yeah, just adding to, I agree with all of that, and I wanted to add something to what both of you said that I thought about. You know, one thing is with all the sensors, right? I've heard of examples where retailers make sure that when the package is actually delivered, they have somebody from customer experience call the person and actually be present while the unboxing is happening. So you add that personal touch of somebody being there to perhaps provide a little bit of guidance or make sure that everything was delivered as it should, etc. So you really, you know, get as close as you can possibly get to that experience when the customer is receiving the goods, which, you know, as you highlighted, is the next step to buying something again, right? What Nicholas was talking about earlier in terms of the key to customer experience.
Just another point on that. Sorry, you're sparking another idea here, a thought. A lot of the folks listening here would be using marketplaces, I'm sure, right? They'd be using marketplaces as a channel. Yeah. And I often get that asked as a question, Nick, should I start in marketplaces? Why would I build a brand.com? I can use Shopee and all the equivalents, Lazada, etc. Now, I think it's really critical that you think about how you can bring those two worlds together at some point. And again, the shipping part is really key here, because if your initial interaction is coming through a marketplace, one of the great and simple ways to drive people back to your site would be to use the products that you're shipping, especially if you're able to ship the goods, you know, depending on your arrangement. But if you're shipping the goods, that's the moment you have a chance to bring someone back to your brand.com store. Simple QR code, some perfume in the box, like Matt suggested, in terms of providing a scented experience, tying that with a QR code that drives you back to the website with an offer, maybe for a 10% off the next purchase or something like that. This is where you start using your creativity and thinking about how I can engage my prospects and customers in a way that wants them to keep engaging with me and coming back. Yeah, and that to me is the trick here, especially when it comes to the e-commerce side and how you engage. You make that an experience in itself. Yeah. And that's why partnerships, back to your point, sorry, here, shipping is such an important part of the equation, having the right partners there. No one remembers the shipping agent that delivered the goods late or broken. Yeah. They don't go, oh, DHL, FedEx. They remember the brand they bought from. So this is also really critical, I think. Bo, you were touching on this as well. I think, you know, we always think about the front end of the customer experience, the sexy side of it, and that's often overlooked. And I think it's such a critical component as well. Yeah.
And the other, well, I just had a package delivered this morning, which was 2 weeks late because they delivered it to the guard. And then when they changed guards, my package was then put away somewhere. So that was not a great experience. Anyway, so yeah, it does happen. I wanted to touch on what you just said about the employee experience. I think a lot is to be said about, you know, how employees will entertain your customers is probably a reflection of how you work with your employees, right? If you have employees that just love working for the company, they will extend that love to their customers in everyday conversations that they have. Apple is probably a really good example of that. You see a lot of passion when you walk into an Apple store. We have a local example though, and I, being Swedish, I cannot help mentioning that we're a big part of the team that is opening IKEA tomorrow here in the Philippines, the largest IKEA store in the world. And that is a bit of national pride for me. That's why I had to say it. But my point is, the employee engagement and the love for the brand is kind of built into the DNA of IKEA. And you notice that when you walk into that store, anywhere in the world, in fact, they just love working for their brand. And it surrounds the experience in IKEA. And it's, of course, part of their strategy. And I think that it's, you know, a good thing to pick up on when you look at how you train your people in the store, how you train your people to engage with customers online, etc. So that was what I wanted to add.
No, 100%. I mean, Peter Drucker said culture eats strategy for lunch, I think it was. If I am paraphrasing him very badly, but it's true. If you build the right culture in your company, it's worth gold dust in that respect. Yeah.
It's self-perpetuating as well. You know, you don't want managers coming down to the sales floor like I remember 20 years ago starting in retail going, button up your shirt, McClelland, you know, that sort of attitude, it's self-perpetuating that someone else will go, that's not looking right. Do you want to just button that up a bit? The kind of the culture is then self-driving to make sure that everyone keeps consistent to kind of keep the brand message alive. And so for me, it's certainly this, just like your retail store, your e-commerce store is the storefront. It's the first thing that people see. It should be representative, and it should be the best dressed that you can make it be, and it should be equally utilize the opportunity so that it presents by being able to have a personalized experience per person. You can't personalize your retail store for every individual that goes through, but you actually can personalize your website to do that. So you can actually have multiple flagship stores utilizing e-commerce. And so e-commerce allows you to have a multiple variations and the best dressed in class every time someone comes, and unique per person.
Okay, I do not. Well, this ended up a great conversation, and maybe that is a good thing as well, with a bit of, you know, offhand. I do not have any more questions from the audience. What I'm going to ask you to, both Nicholas and Matt, and perhaps Nicholas can go first, is, do you have any closing word? You have now the top echelon of Philippine retailing listening. What would you want to tell them if you were given 2 minutes to just say, here's what you're going to do today, 2021, in the Philippines?
Look, we've gone through, without a doubt, one of the most difficult periods of history that any of us have actually ever lived through. For most of us, obviously, as older generations have been through harder times, maybe, but certainly in recent memory. Yeah. But I'm an internal optimist. You know, I'm always have been that way, and I think what I would challenge everyone to do is, you know, we've survived. You know, we're here. There's a lot of lessons that we've learned through that. Don't forget those lessons. You know, you've adapted, you've survived, and you continually will have to adapt. That's something you need to take away out of this, as the importance of your ability to adapt, both at an individual level, at a business unit level, at an organizational level. Embrace that, encourage that, you know, and like I said, don't let that memory slip into the distance. If things do start to normalize in a way that we all hope they will be, the reality is there will be another challenge that comes down at us. And one thing we can take away from this experience is the ability to take on those challenges head on, but with using our heads in terms of being prepared and being, you know, ready to adapt based on the lessons we've learned. So use that history that we've built up now as a strength and something that we can ultimately lean on going forward. So yeah, like I said, I'm optimistic. I think it was a tough time. Some businesses have fallen to the wayside. Some have just hung on. And some have thrived. Yeah. So let's look at those that have thrived and see, what did they do differently? What is it we can learn from that? And how can we incorporate that into our business? That would be sort of my thoughts.
Yeah, that's I think is a very good thought, and hopefully something that we don't forget now that stores are opening up, because we all know that what we do not expect can actually happen.
Yeah.
That's probably what we have learned. Matt, what would be your final words of wisdom today, sir?
I covered quite a lot of where my heart goes when it comes to the opportunity, and to similar to most people on this call, I'm a forever optimist. You know, things will change. Things will go back to normal in a lot of ways, but the opportunity that, you know, the pandemic has presented us is that we've had more data than we've ever wanted before. E-commerce allows us to make data-driven decisions. I love making decisions based off the data I have and understanding my customers better, because a decision made with the data presented in front of you can never be wrong. You're just interpreting, and we can evolve and learn. So know your customer better. In your e-commerce website, if you do have that e-commerce website at the moment set up, you have more data about your customer that everyone in the business wants. It's an evolving process to build a culture around understanding that data and using it to make decisions. I think the lasting thought I would leave in, being both the optimist and somewhat the pessimist sometimes, is if you don't look after your customer, if you don't give them this digital experience, somebody else will. Disruptors all over the world come up very quickly and take control of those customer base that you thought was a loyal customer of yours, but they've been shouting out and screaming out that they want more from you. All the things that we've talked about, that last mile delivery, click and collect, having that channelless customer that doesn't care. They just want to go pick up the shoes because Nicholas wants to go running tomorrow night and he doesn't want to wait 2 days for the delivery. So capitalize on the opportunity. This digital, as kind of in, especially in the Philippines now, is brought to the forefront of our minds as things start to evolve and come back. Don't let that bag of gold cash that is your digital channel with all that data be pushed back maybe to the sideways in replace of kind of the opening up of the retail operation.
Thank you very much. And we are out of time. I would like to thank you, Matthew, Nicholas. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure as always. Audience, thank you very much. I hope that you have now, we have helped you hopefully to put a few more thoughts in terms, into your strategy planning for next year. And again, maybe a bit more of structure in terms of how you can turn that flagship store of yours into a profitable online revenue maker in the next years to come. And with that, I will turn back over to Raphael for a few last words.
Thanks for that, Bo. So before you go away, I just have one question for you, Bo. So with everything that we've heard from Nicholas and Matt this afternoon, and especially you did mention that everyone's in strat planning mode right now, preparing for 2022. We've seen that the race recently with 2020 and 2021 is really about being effective online, growing our presence online. What would you say is the next race in 2022? What is the next game changer, or what is the next name of the game that our retailers have to prepare for?
I think retailers now need to take a serious look at how do we get back from where we're at right now. We've had 2 years, almost 2 years in the Philippines of almost no store traffic. Our customers have grown used to a very different shopping habits. And as we say with habits, it's difficult to change, right? Once you realize the convenience of buying online, you got to be convinced to come back to a store. And I think that we would be seriously mistaken if we think that just because we don't have to wear a face shield anymore, all of a sudden we will now drive off to the mall and do our shopping. That is not going to happen. So we have to. And again, the examples of that we took with Adobe is great. How do you create now in next year immediately a completely different store engagement? How do you get? We talked about training people, right? How do you train your people to provide something that you cannot get online? How do you get people to get engaged with the brand again? And that doesn't mean that we should steer away from digital, but I think that to kickstart this relationship with customers again, we got to start meeting them face to face. And I think that it is important that we get our customers back into the store. Once we get them back into the store, how do we now continue that relationship with them on their mobile devices? How do we get them away from marketplaces that is so crowded with our competitors? How do we get them to focus on communicating with us about our services, about our products? That should be sort of top of our strat planning for next year. And I think that is the advice I can give to most retailers, whatever type of retailing you're into.
Definitely. I agree with you on that, Bo. At the end of the day, it's all about building that meaningful relationship with our customers. Thanks for that, Bo. And of course, thank you to our thought leaders this afternoon. And as a way to show our gratitude, let me present our certificates of appreciation to all of you, which read, this certificate of appreciation is presented for sharing your invaluable support and commitment as co-presenter to the 15th PRA Thought Leadership Series on Engaging Today's Channelless Customer, held on the 24th of November 2021 via Zoom. These are, of course, presented to Bo Lundqvist, to Matthew, and to Nicholas. Yes, to Matthew McClelland and Nicholas Kontopoulos. I hope I got the names right. Thank you so much, guys, our thought leaders. And of course, Bo, thank you for joining us this afternoon. All right, so let me again extend our thanks To our co-presenter, Retail Associates, the leading business advisory and consulting firm in the Philippines. Program partner, Retailgate Technologies, Inc., and media partner, Megamobile, for making this thought leadership series possible. Now, we invite you to help us further improve our webinar programs by answering our evaluation survey. Simply scan the QR code flashed on your screen right now. Now, for more registration details for our next episodes, like us on Facebook, follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter, and visit the PRA website. That's www.philretailers.com. So this concludes our webinar for this afternoon. Again, this is Raph Layosa, founder and CEO of Retailgate Technologies, proud member of the PRA, and Chief Technology Officer of the United Neon Media Group. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episodes and the next events of PRA. Until then, let's continue to build meaningful relationships. See you then.